Hello and welcome to part 5 of the Airworthiness Management and Aircraft Records series. My name is Jack Tunnell and I'm your host for this series. In part 5, I'll discuss discrepancy recording, deferrals, and corrective actions. I'll show you why they are important to airworthiness management for flight ops and maintenance ops. I'll show you how some various forms work and what you should look for. Discrepancy records are valuable in certificated, experimental, light sport, and all aircraft operations. My goal is to encourage you to adopt a discrepancy recording system and show you how. The true nature of machinery is, when used, to wear out, break, suffer design issues, and fail. Through time, machinery will rust, corrode, harden, split, become outdated, and fail. The purpose of inspection, maintenance, alteration, and servicing is to postpone the inevitable failure as long as emotionally or economically feasible. Records are a tool to manage the process and tell you the story of the machine. When you think about all the aircraft you have flown or worked on through the years, you will acknowledge the truth of this page. The fact that there are old P-51s and Corsairs and Cessna 195s and Globe Swifts and many other classic aircraft still operating says, yes, you can keep emotionally or historically relevant aircraft going on for what seems like forever. The number of G1s, G2s, Challenger 600s, Falcon 20s, and other old business jets that you see operating lately shows there is an economical lifetime for aircraft. Regardless, they were maintained to a standard, and that maintenance should have been recorded to a standard. There are many records not listed here that contribute to the story of the aircraft, like the equipment list, the airworthiness directive list, the various major repair or alteration records, and others. We're discussing the recording of discrepancies as well as repairs and maintenance here. Let's look at some discrepancy tracking forms and see what could be better. This form has 2 discrepancy forms on one page. This is not the best practice, and I'll show you why. The good part of this form is it provides good room for writing the discrepancy as well as room to write a corrective action. There is room for the person reporting the discrepancy and for the corrective action, but no room for a double sign-off as required in an approved aircraft inspection program. You may or may not need this, but it's handy to have if you get any work done at a repair station. There is no room for tracking parts, part numbers, serial numbers, on and off, shipping information, or labor tracking. This is a do everything but nothing well form. Typical to a form like this, almost nothing gets entered correctly. The discrepancy section on this is useless for anything but moving basic information to a real discrepancy form. It has nothing good and everything bad from the previous form. Forms like these are used in many flight departments. Poor guys and girls. I found this image on the internet with a search of discrepancy records. I couldn't figure out who originally posted this, but thanks for your effort. This form starts out well as a single-page form. I like the top section of this for a rental aircraft. There is some unnecessary information if not a rental. I like the description of discrepancy section, though a little small for some discrepancies I've seen. I would rather see the lower section divided into deferral action and corrective action sections. The form also does not have a dual sign-off area if needed. There is no room for tracking parts, part numbers, serial numbers, on and off, shipping information, or labor tracking. I also like to see the discrepancy forms numbered. Here's a form I've used for decades and everything that I've done records for. This form is meant to be kept in a flight log for a period of time or until all involved pilots have seen the resolution or corrective action. This is to be kept in a file folder, a 3-ring binder, or other suitable storage. There are a number of ways to make this harder, but experience indicates there are few ways to make it easier. In an environment that has many pilots flying the aircraft, each pilot should have the opportunity to read the discrepancy and the corrective action before the discrepancy is removed from the flight log and entered into the discrepancy record storage. I've had good luck having pilots initial the right margin after they have read the discrepancy and its corrective action. This does a couple of things. Maintenance knows who has read the information, and the pilots can zip by any discrepancy sheets they have read before. The top portion of the form is pretty self-explanatory. Fill in all the blanks with the possible exception of landings if you don't track them. Record the discrepancies by number in order. Without numbering, it's hard to call it a system. In this section, you can select discrepancy or information item. An example of information items could be, saw birds and heard thump but couldn't find a strike location. Please look. Or it could be paint coming off left rear wing fairing or something like that. Or it could be co-pilot's EFIS MFD flickered once at about an hour 45 into the flight but returned to normal operation immediately. This may be the start of an issue, but it doesn't hurt to start collecting data. Most items you write up will be a discrepancy. If you write an information item, they may get turned into a discrepancy by your maintenance provider. Example is that if you write up a worn tire, your maintenance provider may find that it is beyond acceptable limits and change it as the corrective action. There's plenty of room to write your discrepancy and any details that might help troubleshooting. Using this system allows you to just staple all the relevant forms, such as those that would come with a replacement part, like a purchase order, inbound shipping, component tag or 8130, any warranty information, outbound shipping, and any other information that would usually get lost. If your discrepancy is to perform an STC, you could include the cover sheet, the permission sheet, the installation instructions, the instructions for continued airworthiness, and a copy of the 337 form, as well as the previously mentioned shipping, warranty, and component approval tags. If you're going in for an annual inspection, just write up annual inspection due whatever date actually needed. Any discrepancies found during the inspection would be entered on subsequently numbered discrepancy forms and approved for return to service individually. A&P techs can sign the approval for return to service on the individual items, except for major repairs or alterations. The IA would only need to sign for the inspection and any 337s. If your IA finds a discrepancy they think is not airworthy and you disagree, you can use a method well described by Mike Bush in his manifesto and his videos. Mike recommends having the inspection signed off as not airworthy per discrepancy number, whatever it is. Then you can taxi or fly with a ferry permit to another maintenance provider who may see the discrepancy your way. I always like to see the maintenance provider print their name as well as sign and date. The goal is to have aircraft records that you as another maintainer, the PIC or owner, can read and understand. This form can be replicated in short order using Excel or other computer-generated form makers. You could even use a blank sheet of paper as long as you use one sheet for each discrepancy, so you can attach all the ancillary paperwork and number the sheets sequentially. It will look a little low rent though. If you want mine, send me an email and I will send you a PDF of this form. Add all information that may be even remotely relevant. It could help with troubleshooting and resolution. If you need to operate with inoperative equipment, the equipment must be deferred and placarded. You should write up your deferral and the MEL or FAR reference, describe the placarding, add your name, signature, and date. The lower section of the form has plenty of room for a detailed corrective action entry. The entry should be in complete and generous compliance with all the applicable parts of Part 43 and should be readable and understandable as to the full extent of corrective action. If more room is needed, flip the page over and continue on the back with a more on the back acknowledgement. It has room for return to service signatures and inspection. The component section will be empty sometimes, but it can get full if you have a lot of components. Labor tracking can help the owner and the maintenance group. What other features can we get with this type of discrepancy system? A system like this can be used as the aircraft record instead of a logbook. You just put a note in the first unused page of the old logbook that would say something like, all future aircraft records will be kept using a discrepancy management system. The next time you need to create an aircraft record, write it up and start with discrepancy number 1. You get a batch of paperwork in the course of maintenance that, in a logbook system, winds up in a box, pouch, or a Walmart plastic bag and is soon disorganized or lost. As always, send me an email with any questions you may have. I'll try to answer directly, and they may wind up in a future presentation. Thanks.